Hey guys, recently for a very special occasion I made two pan-fried duck breasts and paired it with some black pudding mashed potato and a red wine jus, and it was just so sinful. Really nice and rich and gamey. Duck is my favourite meat anyway, so it was just a real treat. A bit troublesome though, lots of steps. I can't multitask at all, so I'm going to show you exactly how I did it one step at a time. I started by adding the black pudding to a dry pan to cook it through. This was way too much black pudding. I don't know what I was thinking. I was really hungry when I was making this dinner, so I think that might explain the excessiveness. Thankfully I was limited by the number of potatoes I had, so otherwise I would have had mountains and mountains of mash, I think. I ended up only using 3 of these pieces, which was about 70 grams. So cook these thoroughly. They don't even have to be cooked that thoroughly. They're cured so you can eat them raw. They're a bit like chorizo sausage that way. So cook until they're done, in your opinion. Once they are done, go ahead and scoop them out, put them onto a plate and reserve them to the side until you need them later. But don't clean the pan though, you're going to want that later. So then just boil your potatoes until they're ready to be mashed, or until they're really tender with a fork. I should have these again. They were too big. I ended up having them during cooking as well. These are boiling in unsalted water. Normally for mash I'd salt water a little bit, but when I'm adding black pudding to it, that's seasoning enough. So go ahead and strain them when they're done. Add them back to the pan with a little knob of butter, about 25 grams, and go at it with a potato masher. If you have a potato ricer, you should go ahead and use that. Those things look amazing. I don't have one and I've never used one, but I do really want one. So then you go ahead and crumble in your black pudding that's cooked now and mash it in. Then add a little pinch of nutmeg. I'm using the powdered stuff because it was all I could find. I couldn't find the whole nutmegs to grate in finely. But you should definitely use the whole nutmeg if you can, and finely grate it in. That mash is looking quite dry now, so it's the perfect time to take it off the heat. Later on I'm going to add a little drop of milk when I'm heating it up properly. Then go back to the pan that you used for the black pudding and add 1 red onion that's roughly chopped. Remember, this is a dry pan, no oil was used. The black pudding didn't really render out any fat at all, so you're going to have to take a lot of care of these onions. Don't let them sit because they'll burn in a shot. I'm not even sure the black pudding left a whole lot of flavour on the pan, but using the same pan that's not been cleaned means that you salvage all the flavour that it's left, and it also means that it's one less thing you have to clean up. So once the onions are lightly softened, you add about 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. This is going to deglaze the pan, so any gnarly bits from the black pudding or the onion that have stuck to the pan will come loose and dissolve into your sauce and really intensify the flavour. Then you let that bubble away and reduce down until it becomes a little syrupy, and then you add a glass of red wine, whatever red wine you want, so that at least when you're eating the duck you'd have the most of a bottle of red wine that you really like to wash it down with. Now I'm adding a tablespoon of my homemade gooseberry jam, but you could use whatever jam you want for sweetness, but I'd probably recommend blackcurrant or blackberry or maybe cherry. Then just stir it all up to combine. Before adding your beef stock, I'm using one of these beef stock pots and about 400 ml of boiling water. Then you bring all that to the boil and mix it all up so it's nice and combined, and then you can take off the heat and set that to the side as well until later. Before scoring the duck breasts, you want to score it so that you're not reaching the actual muscle, because you want to leave a little tiny bit of fat there to insulate the muscle from the heat, because we're going to fry these really low and slow to render out as much fat as possible, getting it really crispy at the end while leaving the muscle medium rare. Then I'm going to season generously with just sea salt flakes. I kind of think that anything else tends to burn when I cook them for so long and so slow. Then season the other side before adding fat side down to a cold pan. You're then going to really slowly and gradually take the heat from being 0 up to medium. It should take about 15 minutes before you actually turn the breasts, and you need to bring it up very gradually throughout that time. Have a bowl nearby as well so that you can pour off any excess fat. You don't need it all in the pan. Remember, these breasts haven't been touched at all, except for occasionally removing more fat as the 15 minutes go by. So finally, after the 15 minutes, you can turn the breasts, and this is what they look like. This is the first time that I've actually turned them, and they were so crispy and so golden, just delicious. I then left them on medium-high heat for 4 minutes before I removed them and let them to rest. I then poured off all the rendered duck fat, but left those gnarly duck burnt bits. That's pure flavour, and we want that for the sauce. Then I added a teaspoon of flour and really whisked it up to incorporate into the remaining duck fat and try to kind of get up all the duck gnarly bits. Then to the pan, I'm going to add a little bit of that roux that I made earlier and whisk it all up before whisking in the rest of the roux. You can kind of see there that the burnt bits that were at the bottom of the pan have come loose and just dissolved into the sauce. That's given so much flavour. So now that the raw flour taste has been cooked out and the sauce has been thickened from the flour, you need to taste it and check for seasoning. And adjust if needs be and whisk up again before taking off the heat and finally reheating your potatoes. To do this, you add a little drop of milk to the mash on a high heat and mash it up until it's really smooth and creamy. Then adjust the seasoning and add a little more milk if you need it for creaminess. Then to plate up, add your sliced, perfectly medium rare, crispy skinned duck breast to your black pudding mashed potato. Scatter some rocket leaves and some spring onions before topping with that roux that is really lightly thickened, really glossy and perfect. So that's it. Thanks a million for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click subscribe below and find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all social media. And for the recipe, go to my blog www.rookiecook.org.